Welcome to Recovering Addicts. The channel you're at right now is dedicated to helping people who want to get off drugs and who are off drugs in recovery. We're also dedicated to families and friends of addicts who want to help them get off drugs or help them through their recovery. And the thing about addiction is, it is not a respecter of persons. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care if you're male or female. It doesn't care if you're young or old. It doesn't care if you're black or white, rich or poor, famous or not famous. Addiction will destroy anybody. Today on Recovering Addict, we're going to look at a list of famous people who have died due to drugs in one way or the other. Then we're going to look at a list of famous people who are in recovery. Then we're going to talk about Ben Affleck, and then we're going to show you what this channel has for its future. So stay tuned right here on Recovering Addict. This list of famous people is only a drop in the bucket of the actual list of famous people who have actually died. You're probably going to recognize a lot of people on this list, so let's go through those really quick. The first one we have is Jared Higgins, aka Juice WRLD, overdosed on Percocet pills in an attempt to hide them from the police while conducting a search on his plane. Mac Miller, accidentally overdosed on fentanyl. Vernon Troyer, suicide by alcohol poisoning. Dolores O'Riordan, accidental drowning due to alcohol intoxication. Art Bell, accidental overdose from prescription drugs. Lil Peep, overdosed on fentanyl and Xanax. Tom Petty, accidentally overdosed of prescription drugs including fentanyl and oxycodone. Prince, accidental fentanyl overdose. China, accidentally overdosed of alcohol and prescription drugs. Jose Fernandez, boating accident while under the influence of cocaine and alcohol. Scott Weiland, accidental overdose of cocaine and alcohol. Philip Seymour Hoffman, acute mixed drug intoxication including heroin and cocaine. Joan Rivers, therapeutic complications with propofol, sedation. Lisa Robin Kelly, multiple drug intoxications. Chris Kelly, fatal overdose of cocaine and heroin. Whitney Houston, drowning, complications of cocaine and heart disease. Derek Bugard, alcohol and oxycodone overdose. Amy Winehouse, fatal alcohol poisoning after a relapse. Erica Blasberg, asphyxiation, multiple drugs. Andy Irons, cardiac arrest complicated by mixed drug ingestions. Michael Jackson, cardiac arrest, acute propofol intoxication. Bill Mays, heart disease, possibly complicated by cocaine use. Christopher Bowman, drug overdose, cocaine, cannabis, and alcohol. Heath Ledger, combined drug toxicity due to oxycodone and hydrocodone. Scott Charles, Bam Bam Bigelow, multiple drug overdose. Chris Mainwaring, cocaine overdose. Anna Nicole Smith, combined drug toxicity. Ike Turner, cardiovascular lung disease complicated by cocaine. George Beast, complications due to alcohol abuse. Eddie Guerrero, heart disease, possibly due to anabolic steroids. Chris Farley, overdose combination of morphine and cocaine. Kurt Cobain, gunshot wound to the head. Heroin and diazepam found in the body. It was a suicide. River Phoenix, heroin and cocaine overdose. Paul Hayward, heroin overdose, contracted HIV in prison. David Kennedy, overdosed on cocaine, but it's controversial, some say he was murdered. John Belushi, speedball overdose, combination of heroin and cocaine. Jim Morrison, heart failure, possible heroin and cocaine overdose. Jimi Hendrix, respiratory arrest due to alcohol and barbiturate overdose. Vomit inhalation. Janis Joplin, heroin overdose. Judy Garland, barbiturate overdose. It's controversial if it was a suicide or an accident. There's a lot of people that died due to alcohol, and those are a lot of famous people. Those are people who had it all pretty much. They had the money, they had the fame, they had the life, but yet in one way or another, alcohol or drugs took them down, whether they were depressed or just partied too much. Who knows? Who knows the reasons why they were addicted? Who knows the reasons why we get addicted? Like I said, it's not a respecter of persons. Now let's look at a list of famous people who are in recovery. You got Daniel Radcliffe, Demi Lovato, Zac Efron, Colin Farrell, Russell Brand, Rob Lowe, Kate Von D, Eric Clapton, Tim McGraw, Danny Trujillo, Eddie Falco, Travis Barker, Eminem, Sir Elton John, Jamie Lee Curtis, Bradley Cooper, Steven Tyler, Robert Downey Jr., Christine Davis, Tobey Maguire, Alec Baldwin, Gerard Butler, Jada Pinkett Smith, and Mac Lamore. That's a list of 24 famous people who are in recovery. And the cool thing about recovery is when you work your program, it works. Now let's talk about somebody who came out just a few days ago and said that they quit drinking alcohol. His name is Ben Affleck. If you go to the TMZ website, linked below, you'll see that Ben Affleck wrestled with the thought of being an alcoholic. But looking back, he vows not to let it trigger another downward spiral for the sake of his kids. He found something to live for. A lot of times, your bottom, somebody's bottom, is when they don't want to give up anything else for that drug. That's when you reach bottom. And sometimes that bottom is the grave. Ben Affleck was on Good Morning America being interviewed by Diane Sawyer, and he said acknowledging alcoholism took over his life to the point he'd come home after work and drink until he passed out. He also opened up about his family history. His grandmother took her life as a result of alcoholism, and his father and aunt were also addicts. I come from a family of alcoholics and addicts as well, and it does seem to pass from generation to generation. So all I can do now is hope that I can teach my sons what to look out for so that they do not follow in my footsteps, who followed in my dad's footsteps, who followed in his dad's footsteps. Ben says, now that he is sober, he wants to stay on the straight and narrow for his kids. He said, I really don't want my children to pay for my sins or to be afraid of me, which is one of the hard parts of being a child of an alcoholic. Ben relapsed much like I did. He said back in 2018 that he first got sober in 2001 for a couple of years, but moderate drinking ultimately turned to the worst. That's what it did for me. I started moderately drinking at 33, and by the time I was 40, I was a full-blown drunk. In the TMZ site link below, you can see a video of Ben Affleck stumbling around on Halloween. And he says, after that incident, he told Paps he vowed to get sober again, and that his kids with Jennifer Gardner were his motivating factor. Now the point of this, the list of rich and famous people who died as a result of alcohol or drugs, the list of rich people in recovery, and then Ben Affleck coming out and saying that he has quit drinking. What is the point? The point is we're not alone. And we have to understand that alcohol and drugs are not a respecter of person. They're going to take you down, they're going to take your family down and your kids down if possible. So if you're struggling with addiction, there's many resources out there in your area that you can reach out to. I'll put a link in the description below of places that you can reach out to. Another thing you can do is subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned for videos that are going to help you recover. There's also another channel called Sober James, who I highly recommend. Go to his channel and learn sobriety as well. And then there's Real Talk Recovery. Nicole has people on her channel all the time who give their life stories and share their experience, hope, and strength from recovery. Thanks for tuning in to Recovery Channel. I'll see you next time.